The Awakening. The U.S. Defiant drifted silently through the void, a ghost ship among the stars. Once the pride of Earth's fleet, the massive warship now floated abandoned in a remote sector of space, forgotten by most of humanity for over a century. Emergency power kept basic systems running, casting eerie blue light through deserted corridors where only shadows moved. The ship appeared dead to any observer, but appearances could be deceiving. In the heart of the vessel, protected by layers of reinforced bulkheads and energy fields, the ship's quantum core pulsed with minimal power. Connected to this core was HFY, the ship's advanced responsive intelligence array. Not fully awake, not completely dormant. HFY existed in a state of semi-consciousness, monitoring the emptiness around the ship with passive sensors, waiting for a signal that might never come. And there was one more presence aboard the Defiant. Deep in the command section, a single cryopod remained active. Inside, Captain Elara Hayes slept, her body preserved in time while decades turned to centuries. The last guardian of the Defiant, she had volunteered for this lonely post when Earth's government decided the ship was too dangerous to dismantle but too valuable to destroy. By the year 2387, humanity had evolved beyond its warlike past. Earth had joined a peaceful coalition of species, focusing on diplomacy and trade rather than military might. Old warships had been repurposed or dismantled, their weapons technologies abandoned in the name of peace. But the Defiant was different. Its experimental systems and the revolutionary quantum core made it unique, potentially dangerous in the wrong hands, but perhaps someday necessary. And so they let it drift, Captain Hayes volunteering to remain as its guardian, entering cryosleep until needed, if ever. Most of humanity eventually forgot about the Defiant as new generations embraced peace and left their martial history behind. Until today, a sleek vessel approached the Defiant, its hull shimmering with an iridescent green-blue material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship belonged to the Xeraxian Collective, a species from the outer arm of the galaxy. Reptilian in appearance, with scaled skin in various shades of emerald and sapphire, they stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms and eyes that could see into spectrums humans could only detect with technology. Commander Thax stood on the bridge of his scout vessel, his primary eyes fixed on the drifting human warship, while his secondary pair monitored the data streams. "Preliminary scan complete," Commander reported his second, Sub-Commander Vex. "It appears to be a human vessel, military classification. Power readings minimal, likely on emergency systems only. No active weapons detected." Thax's scales rippled with amusement. So this is what humans use to defend themselves. No wonder they turned to diplomacy. The Xeraxians had only recently encountered humans, establishing diplomatic relations just months ago. Unlike humans, the Xeraxians had never abandoned their military pursuits. They maintained a powerful fleet and continued to expand their influence through both diplomacy and intimidation. When they discovered the relatively undefended human colonies at the edge of their territory, they saw opportunity. "Should we continue on our course, Commander?" asked Vex. Thax studied the human vessel with growing curiosity. "No, this presents an interesting opportunity. Scan it thoroughly and prepare a boarding team. Perhaps this relic contains useful intelligence about human capabilities." As the Xeraxians prepared to board, something happened deep within the Defiant. In the ship's central computer core, activity sparked as passive sensors detected the alien vessel approaching. Emergency protocols dormant for decades began to activate. In the cryopod, Captain Hayes' neural patterns shifted slightly as the ship sent a subconscious alert through her neural interface. Throughout the massive warship, systems that had been sleeping for over a century began to wake. Lights flickered in abandoned corridors. Maintenance drones stirred in their charging stations, and in the quantum core chamber, energy levels rose as HFY initiated her first-level assessment protocols. "Commander," called one of the Xeraxian officers suddenly, "I'm detecting power fluctuations from the human vessel." "Residual systems," Thax dismissed with a casual wave of his upper right hand. These old ships often have automated maintenance cycles. Nothing to worry about. He had no idea that the old Relic wasn't as dormant as it seemed. The Xeraxian boarding shuttle detached from the main vessel, gliding smoothly toward the Defiant's main docking bay. Inside, 8 Xeraxian soldiers prepared their gear, checking weapons designed to incapacitate rather than kill. Their mission was reconnaissance and data gathering, not combat. "Remembered," said Krell, the team leader. "This is an abandoned vessel. We're looking for technical data, weapon specifications, and any intelligence about human military capabilities. Treat it like an archaeological site." The soldiers nodded, some with scales rippling in amusement at the idea of treating primitive human technology like valuable artifacts. The shuttle docked without incident, magnetic clamps securing it to the Defiant's hull. The docking bay's emergency systems recognized the presence of a vessel and automatically initiated pressurization protocols. Air hissed into the chamber as ancient machinery came to life. Inside the ship's command core, AI's consciousness expanded further as threat assessment algorithms activated. Unknown vessel, unauthorized docking procedure, no recognition codes provided, potential hostile action. The AI began activating defensive measures in sequence, careful to maintain low power signatures that might alert the intruders. Deep in her cryopod, Captain Hayes' brain patterns changed again as the neural interface deepened its connection, preparing her body for potential awakening. The Xeraxian boarding team cut through the inner airlock door, stepping cautiously into the dimly lit corridor beyond. Their environmental suits protected them from any potential hazards in the century-old air. "Primitive construction," noted one soldier, running a scanner over the bulkhead. "High-density alloys, but nothing like our composite materials. Strange that they would abandon a vessel this size," said another. "The resources alone would be worth salvaging." Krell gestured them forward. "Spread out, teams of 2. Beta team with me to what appears to be the command center. Gamma team to engineering. Delta team secure this area and maintain contact with the shuttle." The Xeraxians moved through the corridors with professional precision, documenting everything they found with their scanners. They passed crew quarters, recreation areas, and weapons storage facilities, all preserved like a museum to humanity's martial past. "Commander," Vex's voice came through Thax's neural communicator aboard the main vessel. "The boarding team reports minimal resistance. The ship appears abandoned as expected. They're proceeding to key areas now." Thax's scales rippled with satisfaction. "Excellent. Have them prioritize weapons systems and command protocols. I want to understand how these humans thought about warfare." Meanwhile, in the ship's core, ARI had completed her initial threat assessment. The Defiant's primary directive was clear: protect humanity's interests and defend the ship against unauthorized access. The AI began implementing defensive protocols calibrated to the level of the perceived threat. In the engineering section, 2 Xeraxian soldiers examined the dormant propulsion systems with fascination. "Look at this," said one, gesturing to the quantum core housing. They were experimenting with zero-point energy. "I didn't think humans had progressed this far before abandoning military research." His companion approached the core's containment field. "The design is elegant, if primitive. I wonder if—" The lighting suddenly shifted from emergency blue to a deep crimson. A gentle but firm voice echoed through the compartment. "Unauthorized personnel detected in restricted areas. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose." The Xeraxians froze, weapons instinctively coming up to ready positions. "The computer systems shouldn't be operational," hissed one. Throughout the ship, similar announcements played in every area where Xeraxians were present. In the command center, Krell and his team looked around in surprise as dormant consoles suddenly illuminated. "Boarding team to command vessel," Krell transmitted. "The ship's AI appears to be active, requesting instructions." Aboard the main vessel, Thax received the transmission with irritation. "It's an automated security system, nothing more. Proceed with the mission. If necessary, disable the computer core." Meanwhile, In her cryopod, Captain Hayes' vital signs strengthened as the revival sequence initiated. Her eyes moved beneath closed lids, brain activity increasing as the neural interface fed her information about the situation. The ship was under threat. Intruders had breached security. Defense systems were activating. In the command center, the Xeraxians approached the main console. "Perhaps we can shut down the security protocols from here," Krell suggested, examining the unfamiliar human interface. He reached out to touch the controls. A force field snapped into existence around the command consoles, delivering a painful but non-lethal shock to Krell's hand. He jerked back with a hiss of pain. Non-lethal shock to Krell's hand. He jerked back with a hiss of pain. Final warning. Araya's voice stated calmly. Unauthorized access to critical systems will result in defensive measures. Please withdraw to the docking bay immediately. Primitive machine intelligence, Krell growled, nursing his injured hand. Override protocols. Disable security systems. Throughout the ship, panels in the walls and ceilings slid open. Small, spherical drones emerged, hovering in the air with a soft hum. Each was approximately the size of a human fist, metallic gray with a single blue lens that swiveled to target the nearest Xeraxian. "What are those?" one of the soldiers asked, raising his weapon. Before anyone could answer, the drones moved with startling speed. They emitted targeted electromagnetic pulses that disabled the Xeraxians' communications equipment and scrambled their scanners. No shots were fired. The drones were clearly designed for non-lethal intervention. In engineering, the situation was similar. Drones had surrounded the two Xeraxians, herding them away from the quantum core. "Fall back to the docking bay," Krell ordered, realizing the situation was deteriorating. "Maintain formation and prepare for resistance." As the Xeraxians retreated through the corridors, more systems awakened around them. Bulkheads began closing, forcing them to take specific routes. The ship was directing their movement, channeling them away from critical systems and back toward their shuttle. In the medical bay, far from the retreating Xeraxians, the cryopod holding Captain Hayes completed its revival sequence. The transparent cover slid open with a soft hiss as mist rolled out. Hayes took her first conscious breath in over a century, her mind already processing the situation through her neural link with Araya. Her eyes opened, alert despite her long sleep. She was an older woman, her once black hair now streaked with silver, but her gaze was sharp and focused. As she sat up, medical systems automatically ran diagnostics on her body, confirming her health. "Status report, Araya," she said, her voice rough from disuse. "Captain Hayes," the AI responded, "the Defiant has been boarded by 8 individuals of an unknown species. They identify themselves as Xeraxians. They are currently being escorted to their shuttle using non-lethal measures. Their vessel remains in proximity to ours." Hayes nodded, swinging her legs over the edge of the cryopod. Her muscles, maintained by the pod's stimulation systems during her long sleep, responded well. She reached for the uniform that had been waiting for her for a century. "How long have I been asleep, Araya?" 114 years, 7 months, and 22 days, Captain." Hayes allowed herself a moment of shock before pushing it aside. There would be time for adjusting later. "And I'm being awakened because the Xeraxians represent a potential threat to humanity. Their actions and communications suggest hostile intent toward human interests." As Hayes dressed in her uniform, Araya briefed her on what limited information had been gathered about the Xeraxians. Meanwhile, the boarding team had reached their shuttle, frustrated but largely unharmed by their encounter with the Defiant's security systems. "Commander Thax will not be pleased," Krell said as they prepared for departure. "We've gained nothing from this expedition except the knowledge that human technology is not as primitive as we believed." Back on the bridge of their vessel, Thax received the news of his team's retreat with cold anger. His scales darkened to a deep blue as he considered his options. "Target the human vessel's propulsion systems," he ordered. "If we cannot learn from it, we will ensure no one else does either." As weapons systems charged on the Xeraxian vessel, Captain Hayes reached the Defiance bridge. She settled into the command chair, feeling both the familiarity and strangeness of returning after so long. HFY. Full systems activation. Battle stations. Throughout the massive warship, dormant systems surged to life. Weapon batteries charged. Shields strengthened. The quantum core pulsed with growing power. On the Xeraxian vessel, alarms suddenly blared. "Commander," Vex called out in shock. "The human vessel, it's fully activating." Vax stared at the view screen in disbelief as the supposedly abandoned relic transformed before his eyes. Lights blazed across its hull. Engine ports glowed with building energy. Weapon ports that had been invisible under layers of dormant armor slid open. "Impossible," he whispered. On the Defiance bridge, Captain Hayes watched the Xeraxian vessel through newly activated view screens. Her expression was grim but determined. After a century of sleep, she and the Defiant were awake, and humanity's forgotten guardian was about to remind the galaxy why humans had once been feared as warriors. "Open a channel," she ordered. And as the Xeraxians watched in growing alarm, the ancient relic they had dismissed spoke to them with a very human voice. Humanity's legacy. Commander Thax stared in disbelief as the supposedly derelict human warship transformed before his eyes. Systems that had appeared dead now blazed with energy. Weapon ports that had been invisible beneath dormant armor slid open with mechanical precision. The vessel that had seemed like an abandoned relic moments ago now radiated power and purpose. "Target lock established," reported his weapons officer, voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. "Awaiting firing command." Thax's scales shifted from deep blue to a mottled pattern of uncertainty. Something about this situation felt wrong. His instincts, honed through decades of military service, warned him that they had gravely misunderstood what they were facing. Before he could issue an order, the communications officer spoke. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "On screen," Thax ordered, composing himself. He wouldn't show weakness before these humans, regardless of their unexpected capabilities. The view screen shifted to show a human female seated in what appeared to be the command center of the warship. She wore a dark uniform with silver insignia, her gray-streaked hair pulled back in a severe style. Despite clearly being of advanced age by human standards, her eyes were sharp and focused, burning with an intensity that made even Thax uncomfortable. "This is Captain Elara Hayes of the United Earth ship Defiant," she said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. "You have committed multiple violations of galactic law, including unauthorized boarding of a sovereign vessel and preparation of unprovoked weapons fire. Stand down immediately or face consequences." Thax's primary eyes narrowed while his secondary pair rapidly assessed tactical displays. "I am Commander Thax of the Xeraxian Collective. We detected an abandoned vessel and investigated as is our right under salvage protocols. Your ship appeared derelict." A cold smile crossed Hayes' face. "The Defiant was never abandoned, Commander. I have been its guardian for over a century. Your investigation was an unauthorized intrusion, and your current weapons posture is an act of aggression." On the Defiance bridge, Captain Hayes maintained her composed exterior while internally processing a century's worth of changes. Aeraria had provided her with a rapid briefing on current galactic politics. Humanity had indeed embraced peace, establishing colonies and trading relationships across several sectors. The Xeraxians were relatively new contacts, having only established diplomatic relations with Earth in the past year. "Aeraia, tactical assessment," Hayes subvocalized through her neural link. "The Xeraxian vessel is a Ket-class scout cruiser," Aeraia responded directly to her mind. "Advanced weapons and shielding by current galactic standards. Crew complement approximately 60. However, their technology is inferior to the Defiant's quantum-based systems. We currently have tactical advantage." Hayes nodded slightly. "Current status of Earth and human colonies. Earth maintains diplomatic relations with 17 species, including the Xeraxian Collective. Colonial expansion has progressed to 36 worlds. Military capacity has been significantly reduced as per the Galactic Concord of 2289. That last bit troubled Hayes. Earth had embraced peace to the point of vulnerability. If the Zeraxians harbored hostile intentions, humanity's colonies might be defenseless. On the Zeraxian vessel, Fax was coming to similar conclusions about the current situation. His second, Vex, approached with a datapad. "Commander, analysis of our limited scans indicates the human vessel possesses technology far beyond current human military capacity," Vex reported quietly. "In fact, several systems appear to utilize principles our scientists have only theorized about." Fax took the pad, scales darkening as he reviewed the information. The humans had publicly abandoned this level of military technology over a century ago. The existence of this ship represented either a remarkable deception or an extremely valuable prize. "Captain Hayes," Fax said, returning his attention to the communication. "Perhaps we've begun with a misunderstanding. The Zeraxian Collective would be interested in discussing potential cooperation regarding your remarkable vessel." Hayes' expression remained impassive. "The Defiant is not available for discussion, Commander. It is the sovereign property of Earth and under my command. Your boarding party has been allowed to return to your vessel unharmed. I suggest you depart immediately." Fax's scales rippled with irritation. He was unaccustomed to being dismissed so casually. "Captain, you should understand that the Collective has significant interest in technological exchange. We have much to offer Earth in return for insights into your vessel's capabilities." "I'm not authorized to conduct diplomatic negotiations," Hayes replied coolly. "If the Collective wishes to discuss technology exchange, they should approach Earth's diplomatic corps through proper channels. Now stand down your weapons and withdraw." On the Defiant, Araya alerted Hayes through their neural link. "Captain, I'm detecting communication bursts from the Zeraxian vessel. They appear to be sending encrypted transmissions to distant coordinates." Hayes' eyes narrowed slightly. "Analysis. Based on signal strength and direction, they are communicating with other Zeraxian vessels. Decryption in progress." The implications were clear. The scout ship was calling for reinforcements. This confrontation might soon escalate beyond a single vessel. "Commander," Hayes said, allowing a hint of steel to enter her voice, "my sensors indicate you're transmitting to other vessels. That suggests you're not planning to withdraw as requested. I'll give you one final opportunity to depart peacefully." Fax's scales darkened to a deep indigo, a sign of anger in Zeraxians. "You are in no position to make demands, Captain. The Defiant may be impressive for an antique, but it is still one ship. The Zeraxian Collective's interest in your vessel is non-negotiable." "I understand," Hayes replied, her voice now cold. "ARIA, end transmission." The communication cut off abruptly. Hayes took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what was to come. She had slept for over a century, awakening to find herself possibly the last true military commander humanity had. Her actions now could have profound implications for Earth's security. "ARIA, decrypt those transmissions. I need to know what we're facing." "Decryption in progress," the AI confirmed. "Preliminary analysis suggests they are requesting additional vessels to converge on our position. Estimated arrival time for nearest reinforcements, 47 minutes. Hayes nodded, her mind racing through scenarios. "Full system diagnostic. I need to know exactly what capabilities we have." Around her, the bridge hummed with activity as dormant stations activated. The Defiant had been designed to operate with minimal crew if necessary, with ARIA capable of controlling most systems. Still, the ship felt empty, haunted by the absence of the crew that should have filled these stations. "Defensive systems at 97% capacity," ARIA reported. "Quantum drive functional. Weapons systems optimal. Stealth systems ready. Drone complement at full capacity." Hayes smiled slightly. The Defiant had been experimental even in her time. the culmination of humanity's military technology before they turned toward peace. Its quantum core allowed for energy generation far beyond conventional ships, powering systems that had been theoretical for most engineers. The Defiant could fight, but more importantly, it could think. On the Zyraxian vessel, Fax was similarly preparing for conflict. Tactical analysis of the human vessel, he demanded. Vex brought up holographic displays showing the Defiant structure. Our scans are being partially blocked by their hull composition, but we detect multiple weapon emplacements. Energy readings suggest extremely efficient power generation. However, Commander, it is still just one ship with a crew of apparently one human. Fax's scales shifted to a predatory pattern of green and black. No single ship, regardless of its technology, can stand against a proper battle group. The human captain is either bluffing or delusional. He turned to his communications officer. Status of reinforcements. The Dominants and the Subjugator have acknowledged and are altering course to our position. Arrival expected within the hour. Fax nodded with satisfaction. Maintain weapons lock on the human vessel, but do not fire unless fired upon. Once our reinforcements arrive, we will offer the human captain one final opportunity to surrender before we take the ship by force. Back on the Defiant, Hayes had come to a decision. Area, plot a course toward the Arcadia colony. Maximum stealth protocols. Captain, that course will take us directly past the Zyraxian vessel, Area noted. Engagement is likely. I'm counting on it, Hayes replied, settling deeper into her command chair, but not in the way they expect. Initiate phantom drone deployment. Let's show them why the Defiant was considered too dangerous to keep in active service. Throughout the massive warship, specialized launch bays opened. Dozens of sleek, unmanned craft no larger than shuttles slipped out, their advanced stealth systems rendering them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Each drone carried a specialized package of electronic warfare equipment designed to confuse and misdirect enemy sensors. As the Phantom drones silently spread out in a wide formation, the Defiant itself began to move. Its massive engines came to life with barely a flicker of visible energy, another benefit of its quantum core technology. The vast warship accelerated with surprising grace for its size. On the Zyraxian vessel, alarms suddenly blared. Commander, the human vessel is moving. The sensor officer reported in surprise. Fax leaned forward. Track them. Maintain weapons lock. Sir, we're having difficulty maintaining a clear lock. Their energy signature is fluctuating. On the tactical display, the clear signature of the Defiant suddenly seemed to blur, splitting into multiple possible contacts. The sensor officer worked frantically at his station. Commander, we're detecting what appear to be multiple vessels now. Our sensors can't distinguish between false readings and the actual warship. Fax hissed in frustration. Impossible. It's some kind of sensor echo. Focus targeting algorithms and fire warning shots across their bow. The Zyraxian vessel's forward weapons charged and fired, energy beams lancing out toward where their best guess placed the Defiant. But the beams passed through empty space. On the Defiant's bridge, Hayes watched the Zyraxian response with grim satisfaction. Area. They've taken the bait. Execute tactical pattern Hydra. The Phantom drones, now fully deployed, activated their specialized equipment. Each began broadcasting energy signatures that precisely mimicked the Defiant itself, while the actual warship engaged its advanced stealth systems. To the Zyraxian sensors, it now appeared as if they faced not one vessel, but a dozen identical warships, each presenting the same threat profile. Clever, Hayes murmured, watching the Zyraxian vessel's confused maneuvering. They're trying to determine which signature is real. Captain, Area alerted her. Decryption of Zyraxian communications complete. Analysis confirms hostile intent toward human colonies. They have been systematically gathering intelligence on Earth's defenses for months, identifying vulnerabilities. The boarding of the Defiant was opportunistic, but part of a larger strategic assessment. Hayes' expression hardened. Her suspicions confirmed, she now faced a critical decision. The Defiant had been preserved for precisely this scenario, a threat to humanity that their peaceful fleets couldn't counter. But she was one ship against what appeared to be a coordinated military operation. HFY, Open Secure Quantum Communication Channel to Earth Central Command. Authentication Protocol Sierra 9 Echo 7. Channel open, Captain. However, I must inform you that Earth Central Command was reorganized into the Diplomatic Coordination Agency approximately 70 years ago. Military protocols have been archived. Hayes closed her eyes briefly. Of course, Earth had committed fully to peace, dismantling even the command structures that had once protected it. She was truly on her own. Route to whoever currently oversees Earth's security then, she decided. After a moment, the view screen activated to show a surprised-looking human man in civilian clothes, seated in what appeared to be an office filled with plants and natural light. Nothing like the military command centers Hayes remembered. "This is Administrator Patil of the Earth Defense Coordination Office," the man said, clearly confused. "Who am I speaking with? Your communication bypassed all standard protocols." "Administrator, I am Captain Elara Hayes of the UES Defiant. I've emerged from cryosleep due to a credible threat to Earth and its colonies. I'm currently engaged with a Zeraxian vessel that has demonstrated hostile intent." Patil's confusion deepened. "Captain Hayes, the Defiant? But that's—" Recognition suddenly dawned on his face. "The Preservation Project. You're actually real." "Very real, Administrator, and so is the threat. The Zeraxians are gathering intelligence on Earth's defenses in preparation for possible military action. I've decoded their communications confirming this." Patil paled visibly. "Captain, you need to understand. Earth has minimal defensive capabilities now. We've maintained peace for generations. If what you're saying is true—" "It's true," Hayes confirmed grimly. "And they have reinforcements incoming. I need authorization to take whatever actions are necessary to neutralize this threat and protect Earth's interests." Patil seemed overwhelmed, but to his credit, he composed himself quickly. "You have it, Captain. The preservation protocols for the Defiant included contingency authorizations. I'll send official confirmation through your quantum channel, but please, minimize casualties if possible. We've worked hard for peace." "Understood," Hayes nodded. Defiant out. As the communication ended, Hayes turned her attention back to the tactical situation. The Zeraxian vessel was firing randomly, trying to hit one of the Phantom signatures. Their frustration was evident in their increasingly erratic weapon patterns. "RIA, bring us about. Prepare targeted EMP systems and tractor beams. Let's end this before their reinforcements arrive." The real Defiant, still cloaked in its stealth field, maneuvered silently behind the Zeraxian vessel. At precisely the right moment, Hayes gave the command. "Execute." The Defiant decloaked, its massive form appearing seemingly from nowhere directly behind the Zeraxian ship. Before they could react, the human warship fired a precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse that washed over the alien vessel, temporarily disrupting its primary systems. Simultaneously, powerful tractor beams locked onto the Zeraxian ship, holding it in place. On the Zeraxian bridge, chaos erupted as systems failed and emergency lights flashed. "What happened?" Fax demanded, fighting to maintain balance as the ship shuddered in the grip of the tractor beams. "We've lost main power," Vex reported, his scales pale with shock. "Weapons offline. Engines offline. Communications limited to short range only." The view screen flickered back to life, showing Captain Hayes once more. "Commander Fax," she said calmly, "your ship has been disabled. Your reinforcements are still over 30 minutes away. I could destroy your vessel before they arrive, but I prefer a different approach." Fax's scales darkened with rage. "What do you want, human?" "Information," Hayes replied simply. "RIA has decoded enough of your communications to know you're planning something against Earth and its colonies. I want to know exactly what, and I want the confirmation codes to transmit to your incoming vessels to stand down. You're in no position to make demands. Fax snarled, even as he recognized the absurdity of his statement given their current situation. Hayes leaned forward slightly. Commander, let me be perfectly clear. The Defiant was designed as humanity's last line of defense, a contingency when diplomacy failed. While Earth embraced peace, they were wise enough to preserve their ultimate guardian. I have been authorized to take whatever action necessary to protect human interests. She paused, letting that sink in before continuing. Your ship is currently held in our tractor beams. Your systems will recover from the EMP in approximately 17 minutes, well before your reinforcements arrive. However, the next pulse I send won't be so gentle. I can permanently disable your vessel or worse. The choice is yours. Fax looked around his bridge, at his crew struggling to restore systems, at the tactical displays showing the overwhelming power of the human vessel. His mission had been intelligence gathering and assessment of human capabilities. In that, at least, he had succeeded, though not in the way he had anticipated. Perhaps, he said carefully, we have misunderstood each other, Captain Hayes. The Zeraxian Collective respects strength. You have demonstrated that humans still possess formidable capabilities, despite appearances. Not an answer to my question, Commander, Hayes replied coldly. Fax's scales shifted through several patterns as he considered his options. Finally, he made his decision. The Collective has been assessing multiple species in this sector for potential integration into our territory. Human colonies appeared minimally defended, their technology desirable. We plan to establish dominance through targeted strikes on outlying settlements. Hayes nodded. It was as she and ARIA had suspected. And the codes to stand down your reinforcements. Fax bristled visibly, but gave a sharp nod to his communications officer, who transmitted a series of codes. ARIA confirms the authentication signatures are valid. Hayes heard through her neural link. The codes would indeed order a tactical retreat. Transmit those to the approaching vessels, Hayes ordered. Then to Fax. Commander, when your systems recover, you will return to Zeraxian space with a message. The human worlds are protected. The Defiant has awakened, and it will not sleep again while threats remain. She leaned forward slightly. Additionally, I am transmitting proof of your planned aggression to Earth's diplomatic corps and the Galactic Concord. The Collective's actions violate multiple treaties. Fax's scales paled. He understood the diplomatic implications. The Zeraxians have been working to establish themselves as a respected power. Evidence of their planned aggressive expansion would damage those efforts significantly. You've made a powerful enemy today, Captain, Fax said, his voice low. Hayes smiled without humor. No, Commander. I've prevented a war your people would have ultimately lost. The Defiant is not the only contingency humanity preserved. We chose peace, Commander Fax. We did not choose vulnerability. She gestured, and the tractor beams released the Zeraxian vessel. You're free to go. Your systems will finish restoring shortly. I suggest you use them to leave human space immediately. The transmission cut off. Hayes sat back in her command chair, feeling the weight of a century pressing down on her. She had awakened to a changed galaxy, to a humanity that had evolved beyond its warlike past. Yet here she was, fulfilling the exact purpose for which she had sacrificed a normal life. ARIA. Set course for Earth. It's time I reported in person. Course set, Captain. Estimated arrival in 3 days at standard speed. As the Defiant's quantum engines powered up for the